Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Laurie Lane-Zucker, who is the founder and CEO of Impact Entrepreneur. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Devin. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Laurie, you're doing some very interesting things there in the Berkshires, trying to build a real ecosystem for social entrepreneurs. Let's start by discussing why that's important. Why do you think social entrepreneurs need an ecosystem?
Yes. Well, I've been quite involved in the social enterprise and impact investing space for about a decade now. And as a digital media startup, founding B Corp entrepreneur, and also as the founder of the Impact Entrepreneur Network, which is about to go over 10,000 members. It's very international. Pretty much every country in the world is represented there, and it includes entrepreneurs, investors, and scholars of social and environmental impact. What I've learned over the years, and come to feel quite strongly, is that it's very difficult, if not impossible, for a mission-driven company to stay on mission as it grows through the various stages of its evolution, while it's constantly butting its head against a dominant business paradigm that's largely antithetical to what that mission-driven company is about. And there's story after story of mission-driven companies that have suffered from mission drift during their time. So the impact entrepreneur, as I've defined it for our Impact Entrepreneur Network, is social entrepreneurship 2.0. And it essentially says that the mission-driven entrepreneur needs to be thinking beyond just starting their discrete company that's doing good in the world. They need to also think in a more systems-minded fashion, to think in an ecosystem building or new paradigm sense, and to work with, in a very collaborative sense, with a whole range of other entrepreneurs, investors, the legal sector, the governmental sector, to help build an ecosystem that can effectively hold these mission-driven companies and affirm them at each step of the way.
It's really, I think you're right. And perhaps it seems to me that Silicon Valley is the evidence of a need for an ecosystem in a community, right? We see in Silicon Valley that for 30, 40, maybe it's 50 years now, that tech companies have thrived in Silicon Valley. Why do they thrive there? It's not because there is something special in the water, it's because of the community. Wouldn't you agree?
I think so. And I think furthermore that for a mission-driven social and environmental innovation companies, that ecosystem is even more critical, because in many ways, the social enterprise and particularly the impact investing sectors are still in their early stages and maturing fast, but still need a lot more support, arguably, than a more conventional type of startup company.
Sure. Well, Laurie, tell us a little bit about what you're doing to build that ecosystem there in your community.
So I've been, as the Impact Entrepreneur Network has grown in the last few years, I've been playing with the idea of building a center that had a dimension, an impact hub dimension. For those who are watching who are not familiar with impact hubs, there's a growing number of these co-working, meeting and event spaces for entrepreneurs, mostly in big cities around the world. There's a terrific one, for instance, in New York City. There's two in the Bay Area, and they're about 77 or so around the world. So I've been thinking of creating a center for a while that gives a home to the Impact Entrepreneur Network, as well as a more local and regional nurturing base for entrepreneurs. But again, growing out of this kind of more systems-minded ecosystem building perspective that's so important to me, I have been thinking of something now, a concept, which is I'm calling the public benefit enterprise zone. And really it is all about thinking of the incubation and acceleration of social and environmental impact businesses specifically within a regional context. So I live in the Berkshires of Massachusetts. Berkshire County is the far western portion of the state, running from the full northern border to the southern border. And it's a very good place, in my view, to be building a prototype for the public benefit enterprise zone because of its more manageable size. It's a number of smaller towns and smaller cities, but also there's a very interesting history of social and environmental innovation here in the Berkshires. And there's a lot of need to diversify the economic base, to bring in and to attract and keep talented young professionals who are often, the ones innovating companies, and often with the millennial crowd incubating social and environmentally focused companies.
So, Laurie, how did you get started in social entrepreneurship? What connected you first to this community?
Well, I have been over 25 years in almost entirely on working in the sustainability realm. For the majority of that, I've been the executive director of nonprofit environmental organizations, such as Orion Magazine, that still exists today, and is one of many very interesting social environmental organizations here in the Berkshires. Having left that 10 years ago, I went on and started a think tank and an incubator, nonprofit incubator. And one of the projects that I developed there, an initiative called Hot Frog, decided it needed to become something else than a nonprofit project. I was meeting people who straddled the philanthropic and the social enterprise world, and they said, this is a great idea. You're going to need some significant resources to do this right. And there's this new structure, this new ecosystem that's just about to launch called the B Corporation. And they're about to start certifying companies. And I drank the Kool-Aid in a big way. I said, if I'm going to move my work into a quote unquote for-profit realm, I want it to be very rigorously attentive to social and environmental doings, and in both internal activity as well as what it's putting out in the world. And I saw in the B Corporation effort, and in other similar efforts that have been taking shape in recent years, and in the impact investing movement that was just getting going at that time. A new ecosystem that could effectively support my company. So that's how I got into this sphere.
That's great. Now, you've got quite a network. Your Impact Entrepreneur Network, nearly 10,000 members in that network?
Yeah, and as I said, it's entrepreneurs, it's investors, it's scholars of and social environmental impact, and quite a few students of the space too, whether they be students who are in undergraduate or graduate programs, or adults who are coming to understand what blended value enterprise or triple bottom line companies, however you want to describe it, what this is all about, and what impact investing, which is a profoundly positive movement that is really taking off. And Devin, you know this because you're reporting on it all the time and are a huge advocate for it. But I see this as these things, blended value, B Corporation type enterprise, alongside the impact investing space, as utterly transformative for business in general. And the public benefit enterprise zone that I'm bringing here, which is essentially saying, how can you incubate and accelerate on a regional level, bringing together government, the educational sector, the commercial sector, including the banking sector, together to work together in a mission-driven way to say, how can we actually build an impact economy in this, an impact innovation economy in our region?
Yeah, interesting. Well, Laurie, I want to just drill down a little further with you on some personal items. You are really becoming a role model to a lot of people as you build this ecosystem, as you build your network. Clearly, you're a role model, but who do you look up to as a role model? Who inspires you in your work?
Great question. You know, I've had so many mentors and inspirations in my career. Early on, I guess I'll focus on some of the very significant early influence I had. I've had the pleasure to work with a great many of the fine environmental writers in this country, and been influenced by environmental writers, both living and dead. So stretching back to Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson, who lived here in Massachusetts and wrote from there, to more recent environmental writers like John Muir, Aldo Leopold, Rachel Carson, and then the ones who are practicing this today. Among them, I would point to Wendell Berry, who is easily one of the most significant environmental thinkers and writers of the 20th century and the early 21st century, and somebody who's written deeply about community, about local economy in the face of globalization and many of the significant business forces and directions today. He is, I believe, having built networks beyond Impact Entrepreneur, built networks of environmental groups that included agricultural initiatives. He is one of the most influential writers who has inspired the creation of organizations as well as companies, even impact investing funds, particularly in the realm of agriculture. And I remember giving him an award when we were at Orion. It was a Lifetime Achievement Award. And he got up to give the award, and he was surrounded by dozens and dozens of other very significant environmental thinkers. And he started his acceptance speech for the award by saying, if I began to subtract from me the influence of each person in this room, I would very quickly disappear altogether. And to me, that's very poignant for what we're talking about in the building of a new ecosystem to support mission-driven companies, and in this notion of the public benefit enterprise zone that I'm working on here in the Berkshires, is that it's really all about collaboration. It's about putting yourself out there, and whether it be in a co-working impact hub space or anywhere, as you go out and connect with people, the wisdom that you gain from your collaborators is extraordinary and a very important part of building a social enterprise.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Well, Laurie, why do you think it is that you have developed such a passion for this? What is the root cause? I understand why it's important. What I want to understand is why you care about it.
Yeah. Well, when I'm lucky enough to live in one of the more beautiful parts of New England, here in the Berkshires, and I'm able to walk out my door each day into the natural world and take walks through the woods or along by farms and into communities that are pretty tight knit, where people really care about each other, and it's that geography of caring, of connection to both people and the natural world that has always been very, very meaningful to me. And that's led me to, mission-driven work, whether it be in the nonprofit sector or now in supporting the building of mission-driven enterprises that are, expressions of that caring for people and the planet.
No, I think that's a great perspective that living where you live gives you, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, we like to ask all of our guests before they go to give us an impact hack, some tip that we can use to do more good in the world. What's yours?
Well, I'd pick up on just what I said, and this is a little Berkshire wisdom for the world. It's don't spend your whole day, whether if you're an entrepreneur or whoever you are, sitting in front of a screen and talking on the phone. As important as that is to building your network and building your enterprise, but take time each day to step outside and take that walk through the park into the woods, or go to a coffee shop down the street if you're in a city, and engage with people and engage with the world, and know and trust that there will be wisdom forthcoming as you do that.
Oh, that's great. Great counsel. I appreciate you sharing that, Laurie. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, Laurie, tell people how they can connect with you, join the Impact Entrepreneur Network, and otherwise learn more about the work you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a big LinkedIn guy, and I do most of my initial communications with people who connect with me on LinkedIn. And also my LinkedIn group, Impact Entrepreneur, is accessible on that platform. And I invite anyone and all listening to this broadcast to become members and connect with this rather extraordinary, very interesting community of people all over the world.
Fantastic. Laurie, thank you very much for being with us today, and we wish you every success in your effort to build that public benefit enterprise zone.
Thank you very much, Devin.
All righty, let's do some good.